You think you can knock him out?
That ain't happening.
Saturday night we're gonna see. You know, I feel like he's underestimating me. We gonna see. So you know, the second Zepeda fight was a little shaky.
You see, he ain't say he gonna knock me out. He said we gonna see what happens.
I don't gotta knock you out. I don't gotta knock you out.
I know.
You want? Yeah, I don't gotta knock you out to do that.
You ain't doing that shit.
Okay, we gonna see.
Yeah,
we gonna see.
You ain't doing that shit.
Okay.
Tarver, why aren't you that impressed with him?
Say that again.
Why aren't you that impressed with him?
You know boxing, right? You watch boxing? You know. You know why.
Is he better than William Zepeda?
Tevin Former and Kid Schofield. Think about it. You know boxing. You know why. You want me to say it?
Say it.
They know why.
Go say it, bro.
Yeah, say it. There's a press conference. The world wants to hear you.
What do he do great that I haven't seen ever? Like, he's stepping in with Tevin Farmer, right? I got so much shit he never seen that we going to test his composure. We're going to test everything about him. There's nothing he can test on me that I haven't been through.
You said
he's
that
not
was
stronger
Zepeda.
than me. He's not smarter than you. Not Zepeda. He's
you
not
said
strong.
That with JoJo.
You not JoJo.
What about Pedraza?
You not Pedraza.
Okay, then. So
you not Pedraza.
I'm telling you.
I could damn sure tell you Renee is not me.
He hit way harder than you. You got 8 knockouts.
Yeah.
I pitched the shutout.
You could tell you don't know shit about boxing. You could tell you don't know shit about boxing when you go by record.
What you gonna see Saturday?
Knockouts mean you was built the right fucking way. That's what knockouts mean. You was built and you had a promoter to put you in front of the right people to knock the fuck out. That don't mean you punch hard. My last 7 opponents, they all was hurt. 3 of them got knocked out cold and 5 of them touched the canvas.
I'm telling you guys right now, my people, hey. I just looked at the betting odds for Tevin Farmer versus Floyd Schofield, my people, going on the first fight in the Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. card. And if you guys are going to give me Tevin Farmer at plus 165 against a young Floyd Schofield, who absolutely hasn't been in there with anybody, my friends, who's coming off that fight with Rene Tejas Giron, where he was getting absolutely clipped, you guys, I'm taking that all day, my people. What's going on, man? This is the MMA Boxing Addicts channel. Today we had the final press conferences for the Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. card and UFC 317 taking place in Las Vegas for International Fight Week, my people. But first, I want to start off by talking about the boxing card that's taking place in Anaheim, California, my people, between Jake Paul and your boy Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the son of Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., probably one of the, if not, probably one of the greatest Mexican fighters to ever fight in the sport of boxing, my people. Now check it out. First fight of the night, like I was just saying, you have Floyd Schofield, who's taking on Tevin Farmer. And they got Floyd Schofield as a favorite right now, which to me, honestly, I find a little bit ridiculous. Let me break my thoughts down to you guys. Tevin Farmer, he's coming off 3 straight losses, right? He's coming off both of those back-to-back losses over Jose Zepeda, who's an absolute phenom, who's going to be taking on Shakur Stevenson in July, right? In those fights against Zepeda, he dropped Zepeda in the first fight, right? I know he was getting clipped, and he gets clipped a lot in those fights, but a lot of people thought Zepeda was going to win those fights. He was supposed to win them. Tevin Farmer goes in there and displays fantastic boxing. I'm not going to say it was absolutely amazing, because the thing about Tevin Farmer is I think he thinks he's slicker than he actually is, my people. You know, he tries to go in there with his shoulder roll, and he's trying to go in there with his little Philly shout. But he's getting clipped all the time, dude. It actually seems like it's really, really easy to hit Tevin Farmer. If you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments. If you guys look at all his fights where he's been clipped, even against Jojo Diaz, he was getting clipped a numerous amount of times, my people. I think he thinks he's slicker than he is. He tends to put his hands down, and because of it, he pays for it. But I don't think Floyd Schofield is all that good. I think, you know, his dad kind of got him to where he is right now. And don't get me wrong, Floyd Schofield has a real good little skill set going on, but it seems like he's still real fresh in the game. You know, when he went in there against Giron, a fight that he was supposed to win as the favorite in there, my people, he went in there, it was getting clipped. Not only was he getting clipped, he was getting dropped in that fight. I thought, you know, I don't even think Giron's as good as Jose Zepeda, let alone Tevin Farmer. And your boy Giron was going in there and just duking it with your boy Floyd Schofield. The thing about Floyd Schofield is every single time he goes into a fight, The main game plan is for him to box and use his technique, and use his skills, use his feet work to move around the ring and dominate round by round. You know, he's not used to, I mean, he's not a knockout person. Don't get me wrong. He has knockouts on his record. But like Tevin Farmer was saying at the press conference, most of that is due to your promoters and them giving you fights, easy fights to be able to get you up and get these knockouts on your record, right? You've seen against Hiron. He wasn't a power puncher, especially a guy against like Hiron, right? He went in there, and every single time that Hiron implemented the offense, it was forcing your boy Schofield to chunk it. Even his dad was yelling him all crazy, you guys. Look at this video. His dad kept telling him, what are you doing? Stop being stupid. Stop standing there in the middle of the ring and trying to be tough and trying to give the fans an exciting show and chunk it. You're going to get knocked out. Use the ring. Use your technique. And that was a guy against a guy like Hiron. Right? Now, Tevin Farmer, I wouldn't say he has that same type of pressure as Hiron, but I think he's far better than Hiron, my friends. Not only that, but, Tevin Farmer lets his hands go. He lets his hands go. You've seen it against Jose Cepeda. Some people argue that he won that second fight against Cepeda, my friends. For sure, he was winning rounds. Don't get me wrong. Even in the first fight, when he dropped Cepeda, for Cepeda being slouchy and forgetting that Tevin Farmer has power, my friends. Hey, it's crazy to me that Tevin Farmer is the underdog in this fight. Don't get me wrong. I know. He's a more experienced fighter in this fight. But when you do look at his last 5 fights, after that loss that he suffered to Jojo Diaz, he ended up going in there and fighting 3 fighters that when you look at their records, these guys were cans, man. These guys were not high level at all. Then after that, he finally goes in there against high level opponents and loses 3 back to back, my friends. Hey, if you actually look at his last 5 fights, he's lost all the high-level opponents that he's fought, and he's beaten these really low-level opponents. Now, Floyd Schofield, you guys, he's a young, phenom kid. He's a hungry kid. He really wants to win this fight. Do not get me wrong. But I got a feeling Tevin Farmer is just going to be a little bit too much. My prediction is after round 6, if it goes that far, Tevin Farmer will start to be more accurate, will start to let his hands go more, and Floyd Schofield will start to get clipped a little bit more, forcing him to get into one of these relentless brawls of a show, which I think this fight could end up turning into, you guys. I think this fight might end up turning out to be the fight of the night, man, because if you look at the rest of the fights, I mean, hey, you do got Zudo Ramirez taking on Dorticos. Don't get me wrong, Zudo's putting on his WBO, WBA cruiserweight titles on the line, which is going to be absolutely exciting. He's the first Mexican fighter to win a super middleweight title and also a cruiserweight title for Mexico, which is absolutely amazing. But I want to get to the main event. You got Jake Paul, who's coming off that win over Mike Tyson. And before that, coming off that win over Mike Perry, right? I mean, a guy who in the UFC, he had a lot of success, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't fought in the UFC for so long. He was a bare-knuckle fighter, and that fight was on late notice, right? Then he goes in there against Mike Tyson, and don't get me wrong, some people thought Mike Tyson was going to go in there and win that fight. He looked amazing in the weigh-ins. He looked absolutely fantastic. But when he go into the ring, it was a dud of a fight, man. So much for it being on Netflix. I kind of thought that in my money, thank God it was for free. Because I thought if you would have paid for that fight, it would have felt like you got absolutely robbed, man. Because Jake Paul at times seemed like he could have knocked out Mike Tyson, but didn't want to do it. Mike Tyson was biting his damn glove the whole time. Crazy. Now he's going in there against the legend Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. And he's going up against his son, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who I made a video about 2 days ago. When you guys, when they were at the face-off, it looked like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was on crack, my friends. It looked like he was on cocaine. Now, don't get me wrong. I will not be surprised if Julio comes into this fight on cocaine. If he is, and he gets dropped, he could get up, and there's a good chance You know, with having that adrenaline boost, he might be able to win. But chances are he's not going to be on that, man. And Jake Paul's going to come in here and just wipe the floor with him. I see people trying to give Jake Paul a lot of credit if he's able to go in there and beat a guy like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Don't get me wrong. I know he was a middleweight world champion at one time. Don't get me wrong. I know he went to decision with Canelo. But those were his old days, my friends. You know, recently he's coming out that fight with Uriah Hall. This is also a guy, Uriah Hall, who was just in the end of he already was kicked out of the UFC, just not even a good boxer at all, my friends. He's known for being an absolutely amazing kickboxer, don't get me wrong. But when it came to boxing, no. Then he went in there and fought Anderson the Spider Silva, you know, one of the greatest to ever do it in the UFC, but at 40 years old, and Anderson Silva went in there and kicked Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.'s ass, my people. You've seen what Jake Paul was able to do to Anderson Silva. Now, I know sometimes boxing math doesn't add up, but I believe with all my heart, dude, that Jake Paul at cruiserweight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who's been retired, who's just been chilling, not really doing nothing, you know, coming out of a fight against Hall. I mean, guys, I think Julio has a chance to be able to redeem himself when it comes to the Mexican people, you know, and not being remembered as a quitter in his career anymore, my friends. He has a shot in coming in and being the guy to be able to stop Jake Paul, even though he's already been stopped by Tommy Fury and the train's still going. He has a shot of if he stops him, it's going to be absolutely huge, my people. So it's going to be exciting to see. You've seen the press conference. They're over here freaking throwing shirts at each other, putting signs on each other in front of each other's tables. I mean, it seems like it's not that serious of a fight, but the Floyd Schofield versus Tevin Farmer and Zudo Ramirez fight are going to be absolutely amazing, my people. I can't wait for that. Then we go over to UFC 317. Like I said, dude, today was the press conference, and hey, it's crazy to see Ilia Topuria is basically the heel in the UFC right now. He walked out today in the press conference, and as soon as he walked out, boos everywhere. Check it out.
The Matador, Topuria.
What's up, everybody? Thanks.
Ilya, I just wanted to ask you about this fan reaction today, right? There's been a lot of discussion about you fighting fan favorites. You have to hear boos when you walk out. Are you hoping that this is the fight where people start to cheer for you, or do you enjoy kind of playing the villain a little bit?
I used to it, to be honest. The only thing I wish that I'm gonna enjoy the fight on Saturday night. That's all.
I think people are mad, man. I think people are mad that he decided to move up and he wants to fight. He wanted to fight Islam Makhachev, but Islam Makhachev decided to move up to the welterweight division to take on JDM. Now he's going in there against Charles D. Bronx Oliveira, who I would say is a fan favorite in the UFC. You know, he holds the most finishes in the UFC. He also has an equivalent of $1 million in bonuses, the most bonuses in UFC, which means he puts on exciting shows, my people. He also has the most submissions in UFC history, right? He's a fan favorite. But you had Ilia Topuria saying what his prediction is in this fight. He says he thinks he's going to knock out Charles D. Bronx Oliveira in round 1, my people. He thinks he's going to be able to do it fast. You guys, I don't know if he's going to be able to knock him out in round 1. I know Charles Oliveira's chinny. Don't get me wrong. This guy could get hit. He can get dropped, right? He's been dropped by a lot of people, specifically somebody who's not Michael Chandler, right? And you think Michael Chandler dropped this guy, man, Ilia Topuria is probably going to knock this fool out. Charles Oliveira is the type of guy that could get dropped and end up coming back in his fights and putting on relentless pressure and getting a knockout himself. You know, the question is with Ilia Topuria is I understand that his boxing is absolutely amazing. You know, he compares himself to Canelo Alvarez. He says he looks up to Canelo Alvarez, this and that. I understand it. I understand his wrestling is super, super good. Even though, personally, to me, you know, Bryce Mitchell was able to get some takedowns, but even though he wasn't able to hold him on the floor for that very long and absolutely dominate with his wrestling, I do think Charles Oliveira, being a bigger guy naturally, don't get me wrong, though, Charles also, you know, used to fight in the featherweight division and also moved up to the lightweight division himself. So he knows a little bit and also has success himself. So it's not that big of a difference as to Topuria moving up. But Charles Oliveira has been in this division for a lot longer, so he's more fuller. He's more stronger. The question is he going to be able to get those single leg takedowns? You know, Topuria, being real heavy on his boxing, likes to fight with that heavy, with his foot. A lot of pressure on his front foot, my friends. You know, he's heavy. Legs spread out, kind of like a boxer. He's there to be taken down. That's why I don't get why he's trying to chase in something. I get he's trying to be great, but I don't think he could beat him, especially if he's trying to become a 3-division champion, my people. No way. But my predictions for Charles Oliveira and Lil Topuria as we're heading into UFC 317 this Saturday. You guys, I've made my mind up. And I'm picking Charles the Bronx Oliveira. You guys, I just think the weight difference and you know, the hunger and him trying to come into this fight and prove to everybody that Topuria, you know, this isn't a tune-up fight. He should have took up a tune-up fight before he came up and faced a guy like me, my people. I'm fighting for all of Brazil. I know Topuria is fighting for all of Spain, and he has all the hunger in the world. He's trying to become a 2-time division world champion. But you know, the MMA Boxing Addict channel loves to go for the underdogs right here, my people. And I would love to see this. Now, if Topuria gets the win, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be excited. You got Renato Moicano going up against Benel Dariush, also on the card, my people. You got Kai Kara France versus your boy Alexander Pantoja, my friends. And also, you got Joshua Van, who's coming from UFC 316 3 weeks ago, who's now going to be competing in UFC 317 against your boy Brandon Royval, who's coming off a championship fight, then fighting Brandon Moreno, beating him, who's the first ever, you know, a Mexican-born UFC champion to ever live in the UFC. Then he comes out and beats the Japanese phenom of a wrestler, Tatsuro Taira, my people. This fight is going to be absolutely fireworks. To me, it's a 50-50 fight. And we're going to see if Joshua Van is an A-level fighter, my people. Hey, absolutely ridiculous what's going down. UFC 317 and Tevin Farmer versus your boy Floyd Schofield. Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., my people. I can't wait for the weigh-ins tomorrow. I'm out.